First one is a call on our government to acknowledge the 1988 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners in Iran as an act of genocide. I was trying to put 30,000 people, that number, into my mind. This acknowledgement is long overdue and should have been made many decades ago. But regretfully, successive UK governments refused to because of the failed policy that critical dialogue and diplomatic relations will convince the regime to change its unacceptable behaviour and crimes. And the result and the consequences of this soft-line policy is now evident and exposed, given Iran's domestic threat to the United Kingdom and its awful and mind-boggling escalation of the conflict that has brought the region closer to war.
I must say the privilege is mine because I have, I suppose, engaged with all of the campaigners for Iranian democracy over very many years, and your persistence, your bravery, your determination is something that I hugely admire and respect. And I fervently pray that eventually it will be rewarded with the outcome we all hope for. But in the meantime, we have to suffer the atrocities that are continuing to be carried out in Ukraine. So my first real comment is to say thank you to all of you for everything you do to maintain that campaign and to keep it going.
Now, since his report has been made, and this is a sort of common feature, isn't it, that there are smear campaigns against UN Special Rapporteur and against the fact-finding mission on the part of the regime. And it's important that here, on the 10th of October, the early day motion by cross-party group of MPs condemned the regime's personal attacks on Mr. Rehman and expressed support for the No to Executions campaign, those brave prisoners who are fasting and refusing food on hunger strike on Tuesdays. And these attacks stem from attacks on Mr. Rehman, stem from the fact that he has committed, he's really committed to his mandate and he's refused to be intimidated.
I think of all the recommendations that are available to us, the most important from my perspective is working with international partners to ensure Iran is held accountable through legal mechanisms, including the United Nations and the International Criminal Court, as well as universal jurisdiction wherever possible. I endorse that completely.
How can we not do it? I find it puzzling. Effective sanctions, ratcheting up pressure on the regime and the individuals within it, recognizing the NCRI and Mariam Rajawi. How can you not recognize the 10-point plan? How can you go through those 10 points and tell me which you can possibly argue with? Prescribe the IRGC, for goodness sake, and above all, support the brave Iranian people who suffer year after year, the persistence, the organization of the Iranian diaspora to fight this against such odds.
Now, finally, in terms of a future Iran, Sarah and others referred to Mrs. Rajavi, the president-elect of Iran's National Council of Resistance of Iran. She drafted a 10-point plan now over 20 years ago, which very much is the blueprint for what a free Iran can and will look like. Just to go through a couple of the points, the first of which is a rejection of the Velayat-e-Faqih, which is a rejection of the absolute rule of the clergy, and a republic that is founded on universal suffrage and pluralism. Freedom of speech, freedom of political parties, and freedom of assembly. Freedom of the press, and for the lawyers on this panel, an independent judiciary and an independent legal system.
What happens in Iran matters. It matters to us here. It should matter to everybody around the world. The rights of the Iranian people and their struggle for democracy, freedom, their most basic rights, as well as the future of Iran, because that's what this is all about, matters and should matter to all of us. If we just look around us, I spoke about London in terms of the Iranian regime's terrorism. But if you went back to their CV of terrorism, assassinations, deaths, and these are assassinations leaving aside the wars that we'll come on to. Assassinations in Switzerland, in France, in the UK, in Turkey, you name it.
We call on this government to end its appeasement and in doing so, close the Iranian embassy as well as expel the diplomats working for the Iranian regime. I call on this government to list the IRGC as a terrorist group. And finally, I call on this government to support UN resolutions on Iran. It is our responsibility to world peace, to peace in the Middle East, and it's our responsibility to our mothers, daughters, and sisters. I would like to end with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."